So the story I'm going to read for you today is from the autobiography of a formerly enslaved man named John Thompson. And Mr. Thompson was enslaved for almost 50 years and writes very vividly about the people on his plantation. This story in particular is about how Mr. Thompson, when he was only 15 years old, saved one of his fellow enslaved men from a whipping. Martin the Fiddler was bought for a term of 10 years, after which he was to be freed. He was a good hand, was called a faithful, humble servant, and was much liked by all who knew him. His term was now expired according to the bill of sale. Of this he was fully sensible, but his administrator, being at the distance of 75 miles from him, Martin had no means of seeing him nor of informing him that he was still held in bondage beyond the time of contact. Therefore, feeling himself at liberty, he consequently began to manifest some signs of his freedom. For when the overseer would drive him as usual, he wanted him to understand that what he did was now optional with himself, since he was now a free man and had been such for 18 months. The overseer took this as an insult, but would not correct him himself, for he feared the action of Martin's administrator. Accordingly, he complained to Mr. W. upon his return from a journey upon which he had been absent. Martin was immediately called up, together with all the slaves, that they might witness the punishment to which he was subjected, in order that it might prove a warning to anyone who might fancy himself free. None knew at the time why they were called. They only knew that there was someone, perhaps all, were to be whipped. And immediately each one began to inquire within himself, "Is it I?" They began to consider if they had done anything worthy of punishment. Their doubts and fears were, however, soon ended by the lot falling on Martin, who was ordered to cross his hands. This was in the barnyard. He, having had removed his coarse shirt and his pants fastened about his hips, he swung up on a beam by his hands, and in the open shed, when the overseer was ordered to lash him with the cowhide. Every stroke laid open the flesh upon his back, and caused the blood to flow. His shrieks and cries of "Lord, have mercy on me" were heard at a distant plantation, but they were of no avail. There was no mercy in the iron heart of his tormentor. It seemed as if death alone could terminate his sufferings. But at length God heard his cry and sent deliverance. By a weak and unexpected means, he confounded the mighty. John, who at this time was about 15 years of age, was out gunning at a distance from the house. He heard the piercing shrieks of the victim and hastened to the spot where the frightful scene was being enacted. "What is the overseer whipping Martin for?" he inquired of his father. His father answered the question only by bidding him to go to the house. Instead of obeying, John cocked his gun, exclaiming, "By God, I'll kill that overseer," at the same time pointing the weapon at the overseer and bidding his father to stand out of the way. The overseer, becoming frightened, ran to Mr. W. for safety, well knowing that John would execute his threat, and that was separated from Mr. W., there was no safety for him. "Put up that gun, John," said his father. "No, I won't," replied John. Stand away, I'll kill that damned overseer." The father was afraid to go towards his own son, lest in the frenzy of exasperation he should murder him. So the overseer, conducted by Mr. W. for safety, left the farm for 2 days until John's anger was appeased. Martin was then cut down by John, but was not able to work for several days.